That's not your bag, sweetheart. Put it down before I call security. The woman's hand froze on the handle of her own suitcase. Around her, the marble lobby of the Lattimore Grand gleamed under chandeliers that cost more than most people's cars. "This is my bag," she said. Her voice was even, quiet. "I checked in 2 hours ago. Room 114. Oh, sure you did." The desk manager came around the counter, a young man in a pressed gray suit, name tag reading Dalton. He didn't look at the registration screen. He looked at her travel-worn coat, her flat shoes, the way she'd been sitting in the lobby reading instead of buying $40 cocktails at the bar. "We've had complaints. People wandering in, using the lobby like a bus station. This is a private establishment." She set her book down on her knee, slowly. "What complaint? From whom?" "I don't have to explain that to you." Dalton snapped his fingers, and a security guard drifted over, broad and bored. "Ma'am, you need to collect whatever's actually yours and leave the premises." He reached down and pulled the suitcase out of her grip. Just took it. The handle slipped from her fingers with a small mechanical click, and he set it down 4 feet away on the polished floor, as if quarantining it from her. The wheels spun once and stopped. A businessman near the elevators glanced over, smirked, and went back to his phone. A woman in heels filming on her phone laughed softly, narrating to her followers. An older couple in coats hurried toward the revolving door, eyes down, not wanting to see. He has no idea. Because the black woman he just dragged out of her own hotel room reservation sits on the ownership board of the company that holds the Lattimore Grand. And she came here to decide whether this property keeps its name or loses it. And in 47 minutes, every person standing in this lobby will understand exactly what just happened. They just don't know it yet. Just don't know it. But this story doesn't start here. Her name is Eleanor Vance, 61 years old. For 19 years, she has served on the board of Meridian Hospitality Group, the holding company that owns 14 luxury properties across the country, the Lattimore Grand among them. She did not inherit the seat. She built it, a hospitality degree earned at night, 22 years managing properties from the front desk upward, a decade turning failing hotels profitable before she was ever invited into a boardroom. She knows what a clean lobby looks like. She knows what a good front desk feels like. She had come to find out what this one was. Her father had been a porter. 41 years carrying other people's luggage through doors he was not allowed to enter as a guest. He used to come home with his back aching and his uniform pressed, and he would tell his daughter every night the same thing. Dignity is not something they hand you, it's something you carry in yourself. He died the year before she got the board seat. In her room upstairs, room 114, the room that was hers, paid for, confirmed. There was a small framed photograph in her bag of a man in a porter's cap standing outside a hotel he could not sleep in, smiling like he owned the sky. She had come to the Lattimore Grand quietly. No announcement, no entourage. That was the point. Meridian had received complaints about this property for 8 months. Guests turned away, staff described as cold, a pattern in the reviews that the regional director kept explaining away. So the board sent someone to sit in the lobby and simply watch. They sent the one member who knew exactly what good service looked like from the inside. She had checked in under her own name. The system had her reservation. It also had a note, buried in the property's internal flags, that the regional team had quietly tagged certain lobby loiterer profiles for staff to monitor, a policy no one at headquarters had approved. She had been reading a book in a leather chair for 2 hours, watching the front desk turn away a young couple with a stroller, watching them wave a wealthy-looking man past without ID. She was taking notes. She was the complaint, sitting in a chair, documenting itself. Dalton had a file, too, though he didn't know anyone was reading it. Employee of the quarter, twice. A regional director who described him in a performance review as protective of the brand's atmosphere. 3 written guest complaints in 14 months. Each one alleging he'd questioned their right to be there. Each one closed by the same regional director with the same phrase. No further action required. He had been taught that this was the job. He had been promoted for doing it. The system that was about to end his career was the same system that had built him. "I'm asking you one more time who filed a complaint," Eleanor said. She had not stood up. "Because I've been sitting in this chair for 2 hours, and the only thing I've seen is you deciding who belongs. And I'm telling you the conversation's over." Dalton turned to the guard. "Marcus, walk her out." The guard shifted his weight, but didn't move. Something in the woman's stillness bothered him. She wasn't afraid. People who were lying were afraid. This woman was watching Dalton the way an inspector watches a kitchen. 44 minutes. Upstairs, in a glass office on the mezzanine, the property's general manager, a man named Prabhu, who had been at this hotel 11 years, got a text from the regional director that simply read, "Board member on site somewhere. Be visible. Smile." He stood, straightened his tie, and looked down over the railing at the lobby without yet understanding what he was looking at. Eleanor opened her phone. She did not call security. She did not call the police. She sent one message to a board distribution list and a regional VP, 4 words long, "I'm in the lobby." Then she set the phone face up on her knee and waited. Dalton was enjoying himself now. The filming woman's camera had given him an audience, and he played to it. "We get this all the time," he announced to the lobby. "People think if they sit here long enough, they're entitled to the place." He gestured at her suitcase, marooned on the marble. "Pro tip, if that bag were really yours, you'd have a room key. Show me a key." She reached into her coat pocket and set a key card on the arm of the chair. Room 1140. The little envelope it came in still had the front desk's own handwriting on it. Dalton's smile flickered, then recovered. Those get cloned, stolen off carts. He was committed now, the way a man is committed halfway across thin ice. "I'll need ID matching a reservation." "You will," Eleanor agreed quietly. "In about 4 minutes, you're going to need a great deal of ID matching a great many things." 38 minutes. The elevator chimed. Prabhu crossed the lobby with the smooth speed of a man who has smelled a problem, scanning for whatever a board member would look like, expecting a suit, an entourage, a familiar executive face. His eyes slid right over the woman in the chair. "Dalton," he said in a low voice, "is there a situation? I need everything calm. We have a VIP from corporate on the property tonight." "No situation," Dalton said. "Just clearing out a lobby squatter." Prabhu glanced at Eleanor, at the coat, the flat shoes, the book, and made the same calculation Dalton had made. He gave her the thin, dismissive smile of a man triaging her out of his evening. "Ma'am, if you're not a registered guest, I do have to ask you to move along. We're expecting someone important." She looked up at him. "You are," she said. "You already have." Her phone lit up. The regional VP's name. She answered, said 3 words, "Lattimore Grand Lobby," and held it out, not to Prabhu, but flat in her palm so the speaker carried. The voice that came out of it was tight and fast and loud enough for the front desk to hear. "Eleanor, Miss Vance, please don't move. We are so... Is Prabhu there? Put Prabhu on right now. The blood went out of Prabhu's face in a single slow tide. He knew that voice. The regional VP was that voice's boss's boss, and the only person that voice would shake for was someone on the board. Ms. Vance, Prabhu repeated, and the title changed in his mouth, became something heavy. Dalton freezes. That's Eleanor Vance, Prabhu said quietly, mostly to himself, the way you'd read a verdict. She's on the board. The filming woman stopped narrating. The lobby went very still. Dalton's mouth opens. Nothing comes out. Eleanor stood. It was not a dramatic movement. She rose the way a person rises when they are done sitting, and she picked up her own suitcase, set it upright beside her, rested her hand on the handle that was always hers. My name is Eleanor Vance, she said. Calm, even. The voice she'd used the entire time. 19 years on the board of Meridian Hospitality Group. I came here tonight because for 8 months this property has been generating complaints that someone kept burying. I wanted to see it with my own eyes. She looked at the suitcase, then at Dalton. I've seen it. Ms. Vance, I didn't... Dalton's voice had climbed half an octave. I was following the loiterer protocol, the regional flags. I was protecting. You were following a policy this board never approved, she said. Written by people who are about to explain themselves. You didn't invent this, but you were very comfortable inside it. She turned the key card over in her fingers. Do you know what I do on that board, Mr. Dalton? Among other things, I chair the Standards Committee. We review whether properties keep the Meridian name. She let that sit. I came to decide whether the Lattimore Grand keeps its flag. You just helped me decide. The reckoning did not arrive as thunder. It arrived as phone calls. By the time the regional VP reached the lobby, 11 minutes flat, tie crooked, breathless, the machinery was already moving. The regional director, who had closed 3 complaints against Dalton with no further action required, was named in Eleanor's message. By the end of the week, his personnel file and every flag he'd authorized were under independent review. The unapproved loiterer profile policy traced back to a memo with his signature on it. His pension contributions continued. His authority did not. He cleaned out a regional office 2 states away on a Friday with no ceremony, just boxes and a security escort to the parking lot. Prabhu kept his job, barely, and only because the records showed he'd flagged the property's complaint pattern twice himself and been overruled. He was placed under a corrective plan and made to personally retrain every front desk employee in the building. The first session was about who gets to decide that someone belongs. Dalton was terminated within the hour. Not for a single encounter, the letter would later clarify, but for a documented pattern. The 3 buried complaints reopened. His twice-won employee of the quarter plaques came down off the wall behind the desk that same night, because the new standard, posted the next morning, was that no employee is recognized for protecting the brand's atmosphere from paying guests. Eleanor did not raise her voice through any of it. When the VP began apologizing in a rush, she lifted one hand. Don't apologize to me, she said. I have a board seat and a phone number that terrifies your regional team. I was fine the moment I made one call. She nodded toward the revolving door, where the older couple had hurried out, toward the young family that had been turned away an hour before her. I'm not worried about what happens to people who can call the board. I'm worried about everyone you do this to who can't. The next woman in that chair won't own the building. She'll just be tired and right and alone. That's who the standard has to protect. She gave her speech to the staff gathered at the desk, and it was not about her. If I have to reveal a board seat to be allowed to keep my own hotel room, then the service in this building is broken, not for me, for everyone who walks in without a title in their pocket. A hotel is a promise. The promise is that if you've paid, you belong, and nobody at this desk gets to overrule that with a feeling about how you look. She set her father's photograph on the counter, face out, the porter in his cap smiling outside a door he couldn't enter. My father carried bags through hotels like this one for 41 years. He was never allowed to be a guest. I sit on the board of one now. The whole point of that, the only point, is to make sure the door works for people who don't have my phone number. The filming woman quietly stopped recording, and later posted nothing. In the epilogue weeks, the Lattimore Grand kept its name. On probation, under a standards plan, Eleanor signed herself. The regional director's unapproved policy was struck from every property in the company. Prabhu, a year later, was quietly cited as running the most improved guest satisfaction scores in the region. He kept the retraining curriculum he'd been forced to write and taught it by choice. Marcus, the security guard who had hesitated, who had felt the wrongness and not acted on it fast enough, asked to be moved to guest services and got it. He said he didn't want to be the man who walked people out anymore. The businessman who'd smirked never thought about it again. That was its own kind of answer. Dalton sent a letter 3 months later to the board standards office. It was not quite an apology and not quite an excuse. He wrote that he'd done what he was rewarded for and only understood, too late, that being rewarded for something doesn't make it right. Eleanor read it once and filed it. She did not write back, but she added one line to the training curriculum because of it. The system that praises you can still be wrong, and you are still responsible for what you did inside it. On the last evening before she flew home, Eleanor sat in the same leather chair in the lobby, her suitcase beside her, her father's photograph back in her bag. The new front desk clerk, a young woman 3 days into the retraining, walked over, nervous, careful, and asked if she could bring her anything, a coffee, a water, anything at all. "Ma'am, please just say." Eleanor smiled. "Just checking that the chair still works," she said. "It does." She looked out at the revolving door, watching people come in from the cold, watching the desk greet them one after another, without deciding first who deserved it. "Until the door works for everyone," she said quietly. To no one, to herself, to her father. Someone has to be sitting here, watching. If this story made you feel something, anger, recognition, or just the need to sit with it, share it with someone who's been made to prove they belonged somewhere they'd already earned. Stories like Eleanor's don't travel on their own. We carry them. So tell me in the comments, have you ever had to prove you belonged in a room you were already standing in? What did that cost you? Subscribe for more stories that name what happens to people in those chairs and honor the ones who refuse to get up. Because every share is a vote that says the door should work for everyone.